Glad to see you.
I know. I'm sorry I missed last time, girls.
It's okay. Hi, Jamie.
Hello, Miss Nikki.
Hello.
All right, ladies. So this is the first one that we're going to be working on, the Love and Joy. And so we've got this is kind of what the sketch calls for, a 4x6 and 3x4s. And so that'll be our first one we're going to work on. And then our second one is our Christmas one. And again, it calls for 3x4s and a 4x6. And Nikki will kind of go through and we'll talk about this as we get into these, because I know you said you were having some issues and kind of questions with getting everything all figured out and all of that good stuff in terms of all of the individual pictures and all of that stuff. So we'll talk about a lot of different options. Okay. So what I did was I quickly gathered some cardstock here. Let's see. Oops, are you guys still there? Yep. Good. I can't see you.
Yours just froze.
Yeah, froze.
That damn cold today.
Eric says it was that damn cold today.
There we go. I'm back. All right. So I went ahead and gathered just some scrap pieces of some coordinating cardstock, some sapphire, some toffee, some fern, some white somewhere in this mess. There it is over here. There's my white, some glacier, some New England ivy, and some black. So I just kind of grabbed that in case I wanted to do any embellishing or anything with that. And then we've got our layouts, our 2-page base layouts right here. A lot of it was done for us this month, so I think these will go really quickly. So what I'm going to start with is, one of the things I decided is I'm not a big fan of a black background on my pictures. And let me kind of show you why. Get some fun goodies I've got over here. So if I look at my main picture of Bree, I think it just kind of blends in a lot. What I like to do is anytime I have a really dark background or something like this, I am probably going to take my 4x6 photo and cut it down so that I can do some type of a white matting. Well, then I looked at this and I didn't really like the white matting. So I decided that we needed to do just a little bit of a technique on maybe some inking. So this is how I know it's going to end up looking, is I'm going to have my white and then I'm going to trim my picture down a little bit to kind of have some of that showing. And you can see I've got a lot of dead space like up in here, really kind of some uninteresting stuff up here that I can very easily cut off and be done with. So let's talk a little bit before we get into the actual layout. What I want to do is kind of go through a few different inking techniques. So, and we're going to look at really 4 different ones. I'm going to set that aside for right now. Okay, so I've got this one little sheet of paper, and I'm going to zoom in here so that you guys can see this a little better. Okay. And what I've done is I've grabbed a couple of different things to be able to come in and kind of play with this. So I grabbed the fern ink, which is one of the colors in this kit. And let's talk a little bit about how many different ways we can actually ink things and what different tools we have. Okay. So we've got, we can use just strictly the ink pad, okay? So we'll put that over here, okay? We can also use these small sponge daubers, okay? So we're gonna put that over here. Okay. We can also use these large ink blending tools as well. So we're going to put that over here. This is going to be our large blender. And then with both of these tools, we can use what is called an edge technique. Okay, so we're going to do 4 different individual inking patterns to kind of show you the difference of kind of how it all works. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to grab my little white scratch paper here. Okay, and so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my ink pad in my hand, and I'm just going to take my paper and I'm just going to kind of rub it straight on the ink pad. You can see I don't have a lot of control over that. I've got kind of a funky little mark there. I do get a really nice inked edge, really nice kind of straight inked edge, as you can see there. But again, I don't have a whole lot of control on this. Okay, so let's switch over to our small sponge daubers. These things are great. They fit right on the end of your finger. Okay, I'm going to ink it up by just putting it, kind of mashing it around in little circles on my ink pad. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with small circles off my page, and I'm going to come right onto my page. Okay. You can see there, I've got some really nice kind of soft edges. I still get that nice hard edge on there as well. But again, it's kind of soft. It's definitely some control with it, really easy to do. Now, instead of laying it down on my paper, if I hold it in and I just take the edge of it, you can see I still get that nice little line right on the edge, just that line of color. But I don't get all of these kind of strange marks that I got when I was using just the ink pad itself. Okay, and so now we're going to start with the large dauber. Now this is a brand new ink pad. I should also point that out. So these little guys, when they're new, the little small daubers look just like this. They're all white, and then once you've used them a couple of times, they will turn and look just like that because they'll already have the ink. This, obviously, I haven't set up this ink pad. These ink pads are all removable. They just Velcro on. So you basically get a couple of these little things and you have your pads that just Velcro right on. And so again, I'm going to go ahead and ink this up. And again, I'm just kind of twisting around and see, not very good coverage quite yet. So we're just going to kind of ink it around a little bit. Oh, we're getting there. See, it doesn't take a lot. If you have re-inkers, I like to kind of start these by using the re-inkers too. Okay, we're getting there, so we want to see nice, good, even coverage kind of all over. All right, so now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hold this down on my paper. Again, I'm going to start off my paper just a little bit. And I'm going to bring that large dauber out onto my paper. Again, just kind of nice little swirl patterns. As you would expect, we're definitely going to get a much more even color with this, as well as a much broader stroke. We can still use the edge technique, right here on the edge. And you can see it gives us a little bit more coverage on the paper, but still gives us that really dark, nice thing, that nice dark edge to really kind of offset our paper. Okay, so unmute yourselves. And I'd love to hear your ideas for when we would use these different techniques.
I think just adding some color and dimension, like instead of just having that plain white background that you had on your black a minute ago, it would give it a little bit of a pop there. Absolutely. And then I've also used like the shimmer, the edge of the ink pad around like photos.
Yep, absolutely. So one of the things that these larger ink pads are really good for is basically recoloring some paper. There you go. you can see just how nice and even and how much color these larger ones add. So if I was going to do, let's say, on this layout, I've got this little 3x4 card that I want to do. Do you think it would be good in terms of going around the edges, knowing that I'm going to have my photo on there, to use the small, the edge, the large, or the ink pad? What do you think would be the best method to use to give this a little bit of color? Any ideas? It's a pretty small surface, so I don't know if the larger one is going to give us a whole lot of color exactly where we want it. The edge might, you know, if I came in here on this and I just kind of did the edge with my larger one, so that gives me just a little bit of color around the edge. And again, I'm kind of using that edge technique. So I've got a nice, good edge to set that off. And I also get just a little bit of color so that when I take my 3x4 photo, I still need to cut down and I put on that. And to see the effect that we get is we get that little bit of the green and we get the white, and then all of that is going to be on our black background, which should really help offset those photos. So just a quick little technique that I wanted to kind of go through and kind of talk about different ways that you can add ink, add texture, dimension, all of that good stuff on the layout. So quick and easy. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I probably will do that on a lot of my edges here. But let's go ahead and get started on our individual layout here. All right, if we bring this out. Again, one of the first things I like to do is I like to place my photos on, kind of see kind of where I want them, how they're going to work. So I have some fun little photos of all of us cross-country skiing that I thought would be kind of fun for these layouts. Let me zoom back out. You can see everything. There we go. All right, so one of the first things I'm going to do is, you know, our wonderful little place photos here. I'm going to use those to make my white matting background for these photos. Okay, again, I do need to cut down my photos just a little bit to be able to put them on there. Okay, so I'm going to do that super quick. Grab my tiny little trimmer that I love. I'm going to take about 1/4 of an inch off and all around here. Okay. That's really good. I might take a little bit more off the side so it's a little more even. So let's go ahead and again, you can choose to match your photo or not. That's your choice. I'm going to go ahead and map mine with white. But before I do that, I'm going to take just a little bit of my ink using my large dauber. And I'm going to just quickly go along that edge. So super fast, fun, easy way to add a little bit of color and dimension. Okay. So one side and that looks really cute. So we're going to go ahead and start to adhere these all down. So let's adhere our photos. Okay, did anybody have any issue with finding photos for this with the 3 horizontals and the 1 vertical here? Did you, Nikki?
Oh yeah, I'll find a problem with anything. So that's what I found with every one of these so far. I'm like, I don't have the pictures. So what I have, oh sorry.
Vera, go ahead. Show me what you have.
Oh, okay. I have 2 pictures that are turned horizontal. Okay. And then I have 1 or I have two extras actually that I found, and I'm doing camping, so kind of, to match the greens.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do with them.
Okay. So do you have 4x6s or 3x4s?
I have one 4x6 that I can use for that one side, the bigger picture.
Okay.
And then I have I have four 3x4s, and two of which are horizontal, and then the other two are vertical.
Okay, great. So you know what I would do, Nikki? I'm gonna fix this. So this is a good suggestion for you. So if you've got two that are horizontal, what you might consider doing, get this somewhat lined up, is coming in here like this.
See, that's why I need you in my life. I have messed with this, and I'm like, I can't do it. I give up.
So that might be an option. You could also, let's see, because that creates a pretty balanced look. It does take up a little bit of your journaling space, but that's okay. The other thing we might be able to do, let's test this theory. Well, I don't know that I like that quite as much, but you could also do something like this if you really wanted to preserve that.
Oh, yeah.
So play around with it a little bit and kind of look at, which way your pictures seem to be, looking and that type of stuff. But yeah, there's a couple of different suggestions for you. And again, if you didn't have, like this one here of Matt and Bree was actually a vertical photo, and I just kind of cropped it in. The other thing you could do is instead of using a, 2 3x4s, if you had another horizontal vertical that you wanted, and you could use that here and then bring in, another photo, or, vice versa. So especially when you're playing a lot with 3x4s and 4x6s, you can usually mix match and size up a little bit too. So,
oh, hey, thank you.
You are welcome. All right, so I'm gonna finish doing my quick little edges here, getting my photos down, and then we'll start the fun part of embellishing. Just keeping my edges super fast.
Eric was making fun of you though.
Why is that?
You were saying a little bit of this here and a little bit of that there. He said you sounded like Bob Ross.
I love Bob Ross.
Tree there.
Bob Ross is pretty cool. Is he saying I'm not cool? Come on.
I want to see you with the hair though.
He says you need the hair though.
I would have a really hard time getting that hair. Do you know how fine and thin my hair is? I don't see that happening. How fine, thin, and straight. Now, Ava could pull off that hair.
I could pull off that hair, I think. The curls go. Ava really could.
All right. So I'm looking at how I'm placing my pictures here. And so what I'm doing is I'm trying to kind of stagger these a little bit. So I've got a couple with Matt and I in them. I've got kind of this one that matches this one over here with Bree, kind of drinking her drink there. So the other thing, one thing I don't like about this is that here she's facing out of my layout. But there's really not a whole lot I can do about that, and here, this one is great for kind of skiing into the layout. Here, we're kind of skiing out of it. But given the layout, I tried to see if, I could kind of move it around, and the pattern just didn't work on this. So if I was putting all of this stuff on, I would have reversed the pages to be something more like this. That way everybody would have been kind of looking into the layout. But I'm a little stuck with how everything's kind of positioned on here right now. So That's okay. Let's do a couple of quick trims here. The close-up of her with her hot cocoa. Which she must have after every ski day. Oops. Again, I'm just using my general adhesive gun on this. And I don't think I'm going to be tucking too much stuff kind of in and around on these things. So I'm doing it somewhat close to the edge. There we go. And this one's kind of tough because my ski poles are way out to the side. So I'm going to have to cut a little bit of this to get the ski pole off, I think, unfortunately. All right. I really like how that green kind of makes it stand out a little bit. And I think it'll help. And I can't really tell you why I don't like the black backgrounds on photos. I just never have. So I don't really scrapbook with a lot of black either though. So I'm just going to kind of line them up. Again, when you get ready to adhere these, do your top and your bottom first, and then bring in your middle so that you get them all lined up the way that you want them lined up.
So for me, would you suggest doing the white backgrounds behind each picture?
I would, Nikki, for you to make them all look very similar, because otherwise you're going to end up with, you know, things kind of hanging out over here around the sides. I think that would kind of help pull all of yours together. Absolutely.
Okay.
Here's number one. If you guys have too much of a glare, these are kind of glossy. Our big printer is dying or dead, so I had to print these off on my little Canon selfie, so they're a little glossier than I normally like to use, but it's okay. I'm just going to kind of line this up. I didn't use my handy little ruler, but you could definitely do that if you wanted to make sure everything was perfectly lined up. And you did a fairly good job there. Ooh. I might give it an eyeball it and make it somewhat straight. So there we go. Now my photos are all down. So now it's going to be the fun part of actually adding in all of these embellishments. How's everybody doing? Good? Hey. All right, so let's start over here on our left-hand side page. And out of our die cuts, let's go ahead and start to bring in some of our embellishments here. Okay. We've got some pretty good sized individual flowers here. Do you guys have any of your little die cuts left from your January envelopes? Those will go perfectly on here if you have any of those. I had a couple left. I didn't have a lot. I'm gonna go ahead and bring those out of my fun little box over here.
Did you do the like the color, the sponging on the little 3x4s too? I just can't. You did? Okay, I couldn't see.
I don't know if you can see. Kind of hard to see on the camera, but yes, I did the sponging,
Okay.
all of them. Absolutely.
Okay. I still gotta do that.
So I'm just bringing out some of the extras that I had left from our little January envelope as well. And we'll see if we want to play with those a little bit. Okay. A little double This over here. All sorts of options for this. All right, so I think I have my die cuts in place. And so what I'm going to do is just kind of start looking at this a little bit and trying to kind of place it on a bit. Decide if I want my banner over or under the flower. I think I definitely want it under because this part of the banner is pretty uninteresting. You know, it's just a bunch of white space. So I'm going to definitely send that to the back and bring my flower kind of up and over the top. Here is our die cut right in there. Then again, what do we notice? 1, 2, 3. There's our nice little visual triangle. Those up there. So figure out if we can tuck some of those in here and there. Yeah, like that. So again, I just tucked in one of the big leaves kind of right over here up in the top. Make sure that I use that one. Got another flower here. Like that, kind of tucked over to the side like that. Okay. Once you kind of have your general placement down, don't do it yet because these are all die cuts. So what we'll use now, we also have our stickers. We have all of these little individual stickers here, just kind of the additional greenery, okay? And again, these are, I hate to say uninteresting, but they're kind of plain. So we definitely don't want these, get this one up, be careful, they do tear. We don't want these sticking out here like that. We don't want to give our flowers antlers, if you can see that. Sticking way up to the side. But what we do want to do is kind of tuck them in here, just a little bit. Just so that it gives us a little bit additional dimension up here. Okay. And so I'm going to start with kind of my die cuts where I want them. I'm going to start tucking these little stickers. And don't worry, if one tears, glue them right down next to each other. They'll be just fine. Okay, I can just that there. I want to tuck this in a little bit more there. There we go. And so I'm pretty happy with that. And so I think I'll do one more up there. And just going to come off down on the bottom here, just a little bit. There we go. And so here you can see I've just kind of given that just a little bit of dimension. So I'm happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this top one down up here on the left side. See, I've still left lots of room around the edge just in case I decide that I want to put any additional greenery or anything like that on it. There we go. So there you can see we just have a little bit of dimension up there. Okay. I'm pretty happy with this down here. I'm actually going to move my title up a lot because her pants really are that day glow hot pink. And so I'm going to cover that up a little bit because the blue goes really well, but you know, as you can see, she's quite the colorful skier with orange and yellow and red and blue and pink, and you can see her from anywhere, and that's a good thing. So I'm going to go ahead and move my title up just a little bit, just so I can cover up a little bit of that day glow pink because it is a little distracting. But I'm trying not to cover up my journaling too. Okay. How I'm looking at my photos. Okay. And my embellishments, I like that. And that piece of so what I don't want to do, if you can see here, is put this title up so that I have this trapped white space down on the bottom. See the black and the white edge of the photo? I want to make sure all of that's covered. So we don't want to have that trapped white space in there. But I am trying to cover up just a little bit of those bright pink pants. All right, same thing here on this flower is we're going to have some little greenery to kind of come in. And again, I'm going to tuck this over my photo a little bit and get a piece of the car seat there that is really not interesting in the least. So I'm going to kind of move my flower around a little bit where I feel like I can cover up quite a bit of that. And I am going to take 3 more pieces of my greenery here and start to position those around. Maybe. And at the top, I'm still planning on putting this right around in here. So I'm not going to put any greenery right up in there, but I will kind of bring it around here to the side. And some right there. And flower kind of all in place there. Okay, next one. And we're going to bring that out, right down here on the bottom. And one more. Maybe not really at the top. Just a little bit there. I am going to go ahead and put this little die cut that was from our little January envelope. I'm going to put that on there. And to do that, I'm going to use just some of my pine tipped glue here. And just put the fruits on here, and of course, I'm going to this blonde. So I always have 2. And again, I'm going to slide this in as well, just kind of underneath the photo, so it's just kind of peeking out a little bit. There we go. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and put my adhesive on the die cut. And leaving some room on the edges just in case I decide to tuck anything else in and around. Make sure I'm not covering up my title. I'm covering up some of the seat. There we go. All right. So that page is pretty much done. So now I'm going to come over and I'm going to start working on these little guys over here. I did pull out this little guy from our January envelope. I may end up using him, I may not, I'm not quite sure. I may end up putting him just somewhere, you know, kind of around. But let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and start looking at where and how I want this positioned over here. I'm right on the edge of this photo down here, so I know I'm going to have to move it up a little bit in order to still get everything on here. So mine will be positioned roughly about there. Again, I'm going to take my stickers and start to put them on. Just there. I'm going to really tuck these in here on the side, so there's just a tiny little bit sticking out, but again, I don't want it running off the edge of the page. Here, in. And the bottom, I'm going to leave a little bit more out. Okay, that's all I'm going to put on that one. I don't know that I'm going to use this last little guy unless I do decide to do something with this little flower somewhere and maybe incorporate that in. But for right now, that's kind of what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and take my die cut. Put some adhesive. Now, I didn't put any dimensional adhesive on this layout at all, just because I felt like the die cuts were too big. When I do dimensional adhesive, I like to use smaller die cuts. So I really didn't do any of that. Okay. place this over, making sure I'm not covering up anything of importance on my photos. All right. So I've got a couple of little pieces left here. Let me see if I want to use some like that. There, it's kind of a nice little feature. Another one of these big guys, I really don't have much room for it. So do something kind of like that, and that just doesn't seem quite right. I do have a little beautiful from last time. Not sure that I really like it on there. I'm going to use it as, it's not too bad there. I could use it just as kind of a little header over my journaling space. You can tuck the flower. We're still not thrilled with that. So I think I may be done with this layout, with the exception, I'm going to grab my shimmer pen. And I really would like this white to stand out a little bit. To me, it just kind of blends in with this grayish background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my shimmer pen. And basically, I'm going to put in, this is stretch paper here. Ooh, there we go. Very good. You see I've got some on my scratch paper here. And I'm just going to come in and paint the whites of my flower with this. Again, much thinner than glitter glues and all of that. Just a nice little shimmer to kind of bring it off the page a little bit. And I'm going to do that on each one of these. There we go. That. And then this one. And very quick little paint. Just whites. And then over here on my third set. And again, all I'm doing is just giving these a little bit more dimension than what they have just kind of sitting here flat. Okay. I could come in if I wanted to and do these little guys, and it just helps it stand out a little bit from the background here. Okay. And this is just a clear shimmer pen, so I can use it on any color. So I did those little berries there. Out. Those a little bit more dimension. Everything's better with glitter. Anyway, so those. There we go. So now, all that I need to finish up on this is to put my dates, my journaling, and I'll be all done. And I have an extra week or something. So again, you could have, depending on how your photos over here, Nikki, especially with yours, you might be able to come out in and around, your middle photos that you have as well, with the additional pieces. So that was pretty much that layout. Pretty easy, what can I say? Seems like we always get an easier one and then we get a little bit more difficult one. And give me just a few minutes. I'm actually going to stop the video real quick and then turn it back on for the second layout, just because that will be a little easier for people to follow. Now I do need to dry just a little bit, but I'm pretty much already dry in terms of all the shimmer. Okay. Other thing we could do to give it a little bit more dimension if we wanted to is to kind of bend them up just a little bit on the ends. And that just gives it a little bit more dimension and kind of creates these shadows. So there is Love and Joy done. So I'm gonna set these aside and I'll be right back and set up for the next layout. Put this the right way. There we go. This will be our next one.